Protestants.
I won't go in great depth, but you have the YouTube channel, the blogs to confirm what I'm about to say. God Logic has done sessions on it, David Wood. What he fails to note is that in his Islamic history, according to sources that he deems to be authentic, during the caliphate of Uthman ibn Affan, the Muslims almost came to blows because Muslims of different communities were being taught the Quran from different companions of Muhammad. And these companions had memorized the Quran and wrote down the Quran from what they learned from Muhammad, but they did not agree. The differences were so vast among them. In fact, this is found in Sahih Bukhari, volume 6, number 510 in the old numbering, which you can read on sunnah.com. There were Muslims from Iraq, Muslims from Syria. Those from Iraq had learned the Quran from Abdullah ibn Masud, a companion of Muhammad. Those from Syria had learned the Quran from Ubay bin Ka'b, another companion of Muhammad. Now, these were the two men out of four that Muhammad said, if you want to learn the Quran, learn it from them. But the Muslims in Iraq, when they started reciting the Quran, they were reciting verses that the Muslims from Syria did not know. And then when the Muslims from Syria started reciting the Quran, they were reciting verses that the Muslims in Iraq did not know. So they accused each other of corrupting Quran. So then the general, Hudhaifa, sent word to Uthman, Uthman, do something. So according to Islamic tradition, Uthman standardized a copy of the Quran that had been written down by Zayd ibn Thabit during the earlier caliphate of Abu Bakr. But Zayd had converted Islam years after Abdullah ibn Masud, who had become a Muslim in Mecca. Zayd was one of what they call the Ansari, the helpers. And when Uthman ordered that everyone follow this Quran compiled by Zayd, many of the companions of Muhammad said, well, no, Abdullah bin Masud was one of them. He said, wait. I had already learned over 70 chapters of the Quran from Muhammad long before Zayd had even dreamed about being a Muslim. I was taught the Quran from Muhammad. And Muhammad even mentioned him as one of the four to learn the Quran from. So he refused. And it says, according to Islamic tradition, Uthman despised him. And when Abdullah bin Masud was summoned to Uthman, it says Uthman insulted Abdullah when he entered the mosque, and Abdullah insulted him. And then Uthman instigated a mob reaction. They beat up Abdullah, resulting in his ribs being broken. Now, notice what Uthman is ordering. He is ordering the very Qurans written down by Muhammad's companions, written down by men whom Muhammad said, learn the Quran from them because there's no one more qualified. He's ordering to gather them and burn them and destroy them, Arabic Qurans, because they were so different and contradictory.
Wow.
Now, here's where the canon comes in. Remember, the Quran comes through one man. Because when we talk about the Bible, Christians remember this argument. This is where the Muslims are being dishonest. The Bible is a collection of books written by different people, different time, so that there would be some difference and confusion around, circling around some of the books. That's to be expected. If you have 73 books written by different people at different time periods, we would expect some disagreement or confusion regarding canonicity. However, if you have one book that comes through one man, there should be no dispute. And yet, Abdullah ibn Masud, he had only 111 chapters of the Quran.
Wow.
He said, chapter 1, Surah Al-Fatiha, the last two chapters are not chapters, they are prayers. Ubay bin Ka'b, the other man, he had 116 chapters. Here it is. Sahih Bukhari. Narrated Masruq, Abdullah bin Masud was mentioned before, Abdullah bin Amr, who said, this is a man I still love. Why? Why do you love Abdullah bin Masud? Sahih Bukhari, volume 5, book 58, number 153. And I quote Sahih Muslim as well. As I heard the Prophet saying, learn the recitation of Quran from four. Abdullah bin Masud, he started with him. Salim, the freed slave of Abu Hudhaifa, Mu'ad bin Jabal, and Ubay bin Ka'b. Ubay bin Ka'b said that there's actually 116 chapters of the Quran. 2 extra chapters than what Uthman standardized, because in the Uthmanic one, you have 114. So now notice this hypocrite. Muhammad's own companions who learned the Quran from Muhammad, when they wrote down the Quran, contradict each other. The number of verses a chapter had and the number of chapters. Abdullah bin Masud said 111. Ubay bin Ka'b said 116. Uthman went with 114. And in some chapters, Abdullah bin Masud had more verses than in the other chapters. And Ubay bin Ka'b had more verses than in the other Quranic collections. So that you see why they almost came to blows, because they're accusing one another of corrupting the Quran. How come you didn't mention this?
Of course, it's not convenient for him.
Brother, I only limited myself to the Qurans compiled by Muhammad's companions. If I go then into the history of the text, even to now, right now, you have at least 14 different Arabic versions of the Quran, and they add 3 more for good measure. the Hafs, the Duri, and the Warsh, and so on and so on. But anyway, for sake of time, we get.
So, yeah, no, this is a great point. Let me try and see if I can summarize it very briefly. You've got even early Islamic sources that will indicate that there are document disagreements among Muhammad's companions regarding the Quran's recitation and content. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, it was actually Mimi Nikab, Muhammad Hijab, who started a worldwide catastrophe because he interviewed Yasser Qadi, and he asked Yasser Qadi, if you write down the Quran right now, could you then write it down? And he goes, oh, don't push me, because this is a very complicated topic, and this is something we need to talk in private. We can't just say it because it's very nuanced. And Yasser Qadi was forced to come out and say there are holes in the traditional Islamic narrative about the presentation of the Quran because it's much more complex. And that went viral and caused an earthquake in the Muslim world because Yasser Qadi pretty much admitted that this traditional standard Islamic narrative, the Quran has been perfectly preserved. Every job is a lie. It's much more complicated. There's a lot of serious issues, a lot of serious challenges, and it rocked the Muslim community to the point that Mimi Nikab turned against Yasser Qadi, threw him under the bus, and the Muslim world had to go into damage control.
Wow.
Narrated Anas bin Malik. Hudhaifa bin al-Yaman came to Uthman at the time when the people of Shem, that means Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, the Levant. And I'll get you the link, brother. Save this nation before they differ about the book as Jews and Christians did before. Oh, isn't that his argument against the Bible, that Christians differ?
Yep.
How come he didn't mention that?
Not convenient to his narrative at all.
So Uthman sent a message to Hafsa saying, send us the manuscripts of the Quran. Now, if you don't know who Hafsa is, guys, Hafsa is the daughter of Umar, who was a wife of Muhammad. Umar is the second caliph. So when Abu Bakr, the first caliph, who was also Muhammad's father-in-law, because it was the first caliph, had told Zayd, write down the Quran so that we can have a copy. That copy remained with Abu Bakr. When he died, Umar became the second caliph. That copy remained in his possession. When he died, his daughter, Hafsa, inherited it, Hafsa being Muhammad's widow. So he's saying, tell Hafsa to give us the sheets of that Quran. Send us the manuscripts of the Quran so that we may compile the Quranic materials in perfect copies and return the manuscripts to you. That implies that these manuscripts she had needed updating. But that's not where it gets bad. Hafsa sent it to Uthman. Uthman then ordered Zayd ibn Thabit, the man initially told by Abu Bakr to compile a Quran, not the Quran. Abdullah bin Zubayr, Sayyid bin Alas, and Abdul Rahman bin Harith bin Hisham to rewrite the manuscripts in perfect copies. Uthman said to the three Qurayshi men, that means they spoke Quraysh Arabic, a dialect. Yeah. In case you disagree with Zayd, now why? Because Zayd wasn't a Qurayshi Arab. He was from Medina. Qurayshi is the Quraysh tribe of Mecca. So if you disagree with him on any point in the Quran, then write it in the dialect of Quraysh. The Quran was revealed in their tongue. They did so, and when they had written many copies, Uthman returned the original manuscripts of Hafsa. Now watch what he did. Uthman sent to every Muslim province one copy of what they had copied, and even those copies had variations. They were not perfectly copied, and ordered that all the other Quranic materials, whether written in fragmentary manuscripts or whole copies, be burnt. Why would you burn Arabic Qurans written down by Muhammad's companions who learned the Quran from Muhammad?
Unbelievable. What a mess.
Yep.
What a total mess. And he even dares try to say that there is confusion because of a larger canon by the Ethiopian Orthodox. First off, he has no idea the way books are utilized liturgically. He has no idea the way the canon even works. For him to try to sow confusion, you're going to see in a moment that not only is he a fool when it comes to that, he is a complete fool when it comes to other issues as well. And
in fact, brother, here's what we need to emphasize, because when you talk about different canons, you're like, oh, wow. No. Look at the great unanimity. Guys, exactly. You're seeing here, hold on. Even Protestants accept 66 of the same books that Catholics, Orthodox accept. That's Moreover, the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible and the Eastern Orthodox Bible all include the same 73 books of the Catholic Bible.
That's correct.
So what is this guy on? Do you have such a high degree of agreement despite the fact that the churches are in schism? Who forced them all to accept the same 66 books if we include the Protestants, or the same 73 books if we go with the ancient churches?
And then the exact same number of books of the New Testament you can look not only to the ancient apostolic churches, but Protestantism as well. Any Christian group, they accept all of the very same New Testament books. So, brother, I got to say, the man is a total fool.
When Jesus fell to the ground and prostrated, according to this theory, what's happening?
It looks like what?
He's praying to himself.
He prayed to himself in the garden.
But
I thought this guy was a Titan.
This is his argument?
He doesn't repeat it only one time. This is a knockout argument that we believe Christ fell, prostrated, and prayed to himself in the garden.
Okay, so do you want me to blow it out of the water now? Number one, Jesus praying to himself. He just likened the Trinity to water, ice, and vapor, right? In his analogy. So water is not the ice is not the vapor. Okay, I'm just going as analogy. So then if you're admitting that the Trinity posits a distinction, so that in your analogy, water is not the ice is not the vapor, corresponds to the Father not being the Son not being the Spirit, did you just go back on your analogy? Because it's not the Son praying to himself. It's the Son praying to the Father. The term prayer, both in English and in the biblical languages, isn't simply worship God, worshiping a deity. The term prayer can also mean communion. It
100%.
can mean conversation. It can mean fellowship.
Yeah.
Since the Son is not the Father, Father, Son, and Spirit all pray to one another because they're all in fellowship with one another. They're all in communion with one another. They all have intimate, loving, personal communion. So they're all praying to one another. Does Allah pray? Chapter 33, verse 43. He it is, this is talking about Allah. He it is who prays, yusalli. The verb for prayer is salah. It says Allah prays for you and his angels too, to bring you forth out of darkness into the light, for he is merciful to the believers. Now, watch the genius of Muhammad, brother. It says Allah's praying and the angels are praying too. And what does Allah and the angels pray? To bring people into the light of salvation.
Wow.
And Allah be merciful to the believers. Now, chapter 33, verse 56. Verily, God and his angels, yusaluna, for the prophet, ala nabi. This was the verse that David Wood quoted. Yeah, it says pray for, not pray. That's what we said. Your God is praying for Muhammad. So when the angels pray for Muhammad, who do they pray to? Oh, say Allah. Then it says, oh, you believe, pray, sallu for him. Meaning, see, even angels and God pray for Muhammad. You should be doing the same. When you Muslims pray for Muhammad, who do you pray to?
For the love I have of knowledge, trying to acquire knowledge, trying to understand and get facts right. I've been listening a lot, and I'm still listening a lot on things to do on things to do with religion, and I'm trying to understand both religions to get an understanding on what they really are, and who came up with everything. And one of the most interesting religion will be Islam. With all the materials that are available now, at least people can read and understand. People can, discuss and understand. And the truth is, Islam is not what they have meant, or the narrative that has been sold to the rest of the world as people think it is. One, it's called a religion of peace. That is not peaceful. Look at very many places where Islam is. There's no peace in those nations. Completely no peace in those nations. Okay, that is just one and part of it. But let's talk about the authorship of the Quran and the origin of the Quran. The authorship of the Quran and the origin of the Quran, and number 3, the authenticity of the Quran, and number 4, the part that most Muslims will dwell on and say, it's unchanged. It has it's original as it was from the beginning to where it is now, and that is the worst thing that most of the Muslims have ever thought. And sometimes you look into some of the learned scholars with the Islam religion, and you look at the guys, you know very well that. There was a time when this thing was changed. Like, things were changed. Name whatever you call the Sarafs and whatever and all those other things. it's not as original as it was, and it will never be as original as it was. And the current Quran that people are having is not what was there, what Muhammad gave in the beginning, or whatever Muhammad narrated, if he narrated, because I don't know if he's narrated or not. And even if it's not, he narrated, I don't think if he really received that from Angel Jibril. But if it's from Angel Jibril, it's not the Jibril that I know in the Bible. Maybe that's a different Jibril. And with listening to all these people and reading all this that I've been reading, materials on Islam and all that, I have come to understand one thing. Most of these Muslim scholars, some Islam scholars, the likes of Mohammed HIJAB, the likes of this guy who talks much, but he has completely crammed the scriptures, but he doesn't have the understanding of what those scriptures mean. This guy, I'm forgetting his name, he talks a lot. Yeah, I'll get his name later and we'll talk about it. I know very well, I'm convicted in my spirit that these guys know the truth. They understand that the Quran is corrupted. They understand the inconsistency in the Quran. They even doubting the authenticity of the Quran coming from God or Angel Jibril. I know they are all these things, they are really looking unto them and trying to understand but not comprehending them. And deep inside their spirit, they feel like this is wrong. But because that is what they have grew up knowing, that is what they've been defending for the rest of their lives. They are afraid of the consequences of apostasy, and that is why they will dwell on it and dwell on it. But deep inside them, in their secret places, they know that it is wrong, like it is not right. There's no inconsistency. It has been changed. Even the language used is not right. Like they know it cannot be. It cannot be. Muhammad cannot be the last prophet after Jesus. And there is no relationship between Islam and Christianity. They know that. And they know that Christianity is the way, the truth, and the light. There is no any other better religion than Christianity. But because they're afraid of the consequences of apostasy, they are trying to, to cover their faces. They're trying to cover their faces and make themselves look like they understand whatever is happening. But that is not the reality. They know it very well. And I would say this, they would rather change. Jesus says, whoever is ashamed of him on earth, he will be ashamed of him in heaven. But whoever is whoever is not ashamed of him on earth, the very thing that Jesus will do to him before the Father in heaven, he will support him, he will be there for him. And that is one thing that I feel like these guys need to understand. It doesn't really make any sense. And to me, any learned person who believes in Islam, I feel like, hey, bro, my sister, there is something wrong upstairs. But again, it's not only Islam. There are other religions. Again, there's Baha'i faith, there is Buddhism, there is all these other religions that people come up with in the name of that they have found the light, or they have found an alternative to Christianity. It's not about finding an alternative to Christianity. No. It's you selling yourself and calling yourself you're becoming an antichrist in one or the other, denying that Jesus is the Son of God and God is the Father. You're just trying to become an antichrist in everything you're doing. So what about this? I don't know what you think about it, but to me, it doesn't make any sense completely. And these guys need to really see the light. And I believe very soon, as they continue seeing the light, personally, I'm praying for them. They will at one point come and understand that this is the reality and they need to do something about it.